Good morning, listeners. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're located in the world. I'm Diana Todd Banks, host of MaturePreneurs Talk podcast. Many of the listeners and many of you will know that over the last year, we have highlighted the tremendous and inspirational successes of many people over 50, over 60, over 70. And today's guest is, my goodness me, her background is really quite extraordinary, but she's certainly not over 70. That I can attest from the photo. But she's full of life, has a fascinating background, which I'm sure you will love to hear about. Now, she has an unusual last name, which Americans will pronounce Civalleri, but the Italians will say Civalleri. And so I'd like to welcome you, Patty, today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Diana. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today.
That's great, and I'm delighted to be speaking with you as well. Patty, your background is just like a storybook in itself. Certainly your last 17 odd years. Patty has traveled in some extraordinary areas, but why don't you say and tell the listeners what you were doing at UCLA with the archaeology? Because I love archaeology.
Oh, I'd be happy to. Well, my husband and I have been on the Directors Council of the Coates Institute of Archaeology at UCLA for close to 18 years now.
Wow.
And we have had the incredible pleasure and the honor to travel around with archaeologists and scientists and academics from all over the world. And we've traveled together many trips in search mostly of lost and ancient cultures all around the dark corners of our world. And it has literally been an adventure. At one point, I was introduced recently in a talk as Indiana Jones in high heels. And and it's kind of true, as corny as that sounds. That has been my life. People often ask if I've been to an actual dig site, and the answer is heavens yes. Many dig sites. Archaeology is different than what most people think. It's much less glamorous than anything. In fact, it's completely unglamorous, now that we're talking frankly here. But we have been to many dig sites. We have dug up things from ancient pots to ancient tools to, pieces of human bodies like skulls. There have been, a cave with a skeleton of a woman that had been buried centuries ago, not buried, but thrown into a cave centuries ago. And the moisture in the cave makes her bones sparkle, and they call her the crystal goddess.
Oh my gosh.
And there's just these wonderful sites from all over the world, and just too many to mention.
That would be really hard in one sense, because you are a very creative photographer.
Well, thank you very much.
So did you find that when you discovered things such as you just described, that you just wanted to keep photographing?
Yes. There are many things that cannot be photographed when they're first discovered.
Yeah.
Because most things now are owned by governments, and governments don't want people to come in and loot places, some of these ancient sites.
Yeah.
But many of them I have had the honor of photographing, and they've been published in a whole number of different publications over the years. But yes, I have photographs that the Western world has never seen and may never see.
Mm, golly. So you would treasure those.
Oh, yeah. And someday I will publish the big secret book.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes. In fact, it'd probably be a good idea to get it ready and even publish it, but hide it away somewhere
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
so that it can be instantly produced.
I think that's a really good idea.
Well, you can lose or things can get damaged over the years.
So true.
And how sad would that be if they hadn't been preserved further?
No, you're right. You're right. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I think that way sometimes. So, Patty, how did you actually get into archaeology?
Well, yeah, it's actually very unwittingly. Most things in my life have sort of happened unwittingly. Um, in my life, if you look at the trail of my life, it's not a long straight path. It's sort of a series of hockey sticks, with sort of they go along and then suddenly they take a real sharp dog leg and a real sharp and I constantly am presented with new opportunities, and if I'm in a position to partake of a new opportunity, I'm in, and I've always been that way. But archaeology, my uncle, it started when I was a little girl. My uncle used to send me rocks and stones, and he would send me a box of rocks. He was a geologist, and he worked in oil surveys for oil companies in Egypt. And he would send me a box of rocks, and he'd say, "Okay, Patty, by the time I come back to visit you at the end of summer, I need you to identify all these rocks for me."
Oh,
so
did he really mean that? He didn't know what they were?
Oh, he did, but he wanted me to know what they were.
Okay.
And so I did not have access to a television. I grew up out in the country on a farm, so I did not have access to, certainly no internet, and I didn't even, go to a library very often. But we had a set of World Book encyclopedias, and I would go through the encyclopedia and I would try to match these rocks up as best I could and try to identify them. And my uncle, over the years, gave me a love of geology and the whole thing that makes the earth and the whole world, the structure of the earth.
Yes.
And that has always been a fascination to me. And that kind of moved into paleontology and fossils and dinosaurs. Well, then I met a guy and we fell in love and got married. And his thing was kind of anthropology, which is, the study of human culture.
Yeah.
And so we kind of took my rocks and fossils thing and his anthropology thing, and we sort of met in the middle with archaeology. And a friend at UCLA knew of our interest, and he said, "Hey, we are starting a new program at UCLA, and we are looking for some people to be on the Directors Council. Would you be interested?" And we said, "Well, see, there's another dog leg in our path, right?" We said, "Absolutely." And that has had such a profound influence on our lives ever since.
Gosh, what an opportunity.
Oh, it is, Diana. It is amazing. It's been incredible.
It's given you a label to jump you way up the totem pole of being noticed.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Well, I mean, for people, if they wanted to know who you were or you wanted to meet them, and you'd say, "I'm an anthropologist," or "I'm a geologist," or "I'm an archaeologist," but you use the council reference, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. And UCLA is a known school.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Oh, they have the best faculty and the best scientists and archaeologists. And I've just, I've had the fortune of just being the sponge that soaks up their knowledge for all these years.
Oh, yes. That's because that has been a passion of mine right from when I was a little girl. Well, so some of the highlights of your trips when you got to actually start photographing. When did the photography come in?
The photography came in somewhere, well, right around when digital cameras first came onto the scene.
Okay.
I was never really interested in photography and developing in a darkroom, but I've always been interested in technology. And so when digital cameras first came on the scene, of course, I was the first guy on the block that had one, and I had to get really good at it really fast. And I tend to glom onto things and go really deep. When I grab onto something new, I tend to want to go deep.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes, I can see that. So you would have in your travels had the opportunity to take some extraordinary photos.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have photos of, I would say one of my favorite photos I posted on Facebook just to get a reaction from people. But it's a woman, it's a Muslim woman wearing a full burqa, and she had just passed me her baby to hold her baby as my husband took the photo. And so it's me with this woman and her baby. And I posted that photo online. And I'm just so shocked at, just the variety of comments that came from that was very interesting to me.
Positive and negative?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. It's a bit sad. There shouldn't be any negatives.
There shouldn't be.
No. So that's one of your favorite photos?
It is. I have a photo that I took from in Peru. We did one expedition up to a place called Isla del Sol, which is Island of the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
It is in Bolivia in the Andes Mountains. It is the highest, it's on Lake Titicaca, which is the highest navigable lake in the world. And I took a picture of a woman who was sitting on the side of a road making her living, and she would take these pea pods and shell the pea pods and give them to another woman who would put them in a fire that was right there on the side of the street, and she would put them in a pan, and they would cook up these little tortillas, and they would wrap these cooked vegetables and sell them to people as they walked by. And it looks just like a beautiful cover of a National Geographic photograph. There's the photograph that I've taken in Copper Canyon in Mexico of a very not well-known culture called the Tarahumara people. And they are very shy people. They are absolutely lovely. Tarahumara translates to fast feet. They are known as the fastest people in the world.
Fattest.
Fastest.
They run. Fastest. Okay.
Yes, they run really fast. And they hide. They live in the cliffs of Copper Canyon, and they're always, they stay out of sight. And I did some tribal pictures for them, which was fabulous. I'm looking at them now. They're on my wall. I was down in the Amazon on an expedition. We were 1,000 miles away from tourists, and we had to work every day to earn our wine at 4 o'clock. And I have so many incredible photographs of wildlife from that event.
Yes.
Egypt. I've been to Egypt 4 times, and 4 completely different trips. I mean, we've slept in cement factories, and I've been held at Uzi gunpoint by the army in the middle of the Sahara Desert. I've had to push a broken down bus through a desert. I've had, it's just, oh my gosh, the adventures all over the world have been
needless to say, your husband wasn't with you at that time.
Yes, he was. He and I traveled together.
What was he doing when you were told to push a bus?
Actually, that particular day, he was sick. He got traveler's He was the one person inside the bus.
Oh, oh, golly. I bet you've had some jokes about that.
Oh yeah, poor guy. He's had to live with that one forever. It's so sad.
Oh, but you're having great fun with it too.
Oh, you bet. You bet.
Oh dear. Yes, the mind conjures up all kinds of things. You would have so many different books in you.
I do.
Oh, just the animals in the Amazon, for starters, and some of these cultures, the dichotomy of the cultures would be amazing to you. Just seeing them in a book altogether or in a video altogether would be wonderful.
You know, and you're right. And I should do this. I have no excuse. I need to do this. I have content from all over the world, and wonderful insights from traveling with all these incredibly intelligent academics that have studied these places their whole life.
Yeah.
So I've gleaned their insights, and I have the photographs, and you know, and every single trip I've taken, I've written journals. So yes, I absolutely need to amass this into something more interesting than just stuff on a disk drive.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes.
Okay, I promise I will.
Finding a way to achieve that's not extraordinarily time consuming on your part, but still is incredible. The outcome is incredible.
Yeah,
that would be the challenge.
Huge challenge. But I'm up to the task. So
I tell you what, if I was over there, I'd jump in and help.
Oh my God. Would you please?
Yeah.
I love it.
Right.
Oh, we would have so much fun.
Oh gosh. Oh dear, yes. So now you come around to Italy.
Yes.
In your travels.
Yes. And currently I'm the author of a series of travel books now for the major cities in Italy. And but the story of getting there was probably one of the more interesting stories. Can I tell it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So a few years ago, I was 55 years old. I was sent down to Belize to go photograph some ancient Mayan caves.
Yeah.
And when things like caves are discovered, they have to be completely and fully documented before the public is allowed into them.
Mm-hmm.
So a university was hired, brought in to do the documentation of the cave. And by documenting, they mean both photographically as well as 3D spatially now. Mm-hmm. So they brought two teams down to Belize, the 3D spatial mapping team and the photography team. And I headed up the photography team. And the two teams started at two ends of this cave, and we just sort of moved to the opposite ends, and that took a month. And that was Diana, that trip ruined me. And I should probably tell you why, but
yes.
It was an excruciating trip. Each morning we had to get up in the morning at 6. We had to have our gear packed, our breakfast eaten, our lunches made for ourselves, and be in the truck by 6:45. We had several vehicles. We would get in the vehicles and we would drive for an hour and 15 minutes until the road ended. This is down in Belize in Central America. Uh-huh. Okay, so an hour and 15 minutes on the road ended. Then we would drive the next hour off-road, which was very lumpy and bumpy and full of major pits and potholes. Mm. And on the way to work every day, there would be two major potholes that the students would have to get out of the back of the vehicle and literally hold the vehicle upright to go through these potholes to keep the vehicles from tipping over.
Gosh.
I stayed in the vehicle because I was the old one. And so being inside a vehicle that is tipping way on its side, going through these giant, potholes. So we would do that twice on the way in. So that was the second hour. The third hour was when the road stopped and we had to get all of our gear, put it on our backs, and hike one more mile uphill to the entrance of the cave.
Oh, so, gosh, you've done a day's work before then.
Exactly. So, that's 3 hours and 15 minutes to get to work every day. And that last hour of the hike, when it's down in the rainforest, so the level of humidity is, it's unbearable in the morning. At 9 o'clock in the morning, it's unbearable.
Yes.
So we get to the cave, and working in a cave, photographically, sort of good news and bad news. The good news is that you have 100% control over the light. The bad news is that you have 100% control over the light, which means caves are not nice round or square rooms. They've got little parts and things jutting up and things that are creating shadows and rocks and stuff sticking out from all sides of them. And you have to carefully place lights and constantly climbing up, climbing down, placing lights up here, placing a light down there, and doing that several times. Then you work on getting the shot. You do that hundreds of times in a day, and then it's 3 hours back out. So our day, we would work 4 to 5 hours in the cave, and it's crawling through bat dung and crawling through bird poop and age-old ancient dust. This is not pretty. Not pretty. And then coming back out, 3 hours back out, we would get back to the dig house. We would have to wash the vehicle, send all of our clothes through the laundry, hang them up to dry. Everybody participates in dinner. You take your shower. Then I had the dubious honor of sitting up most of the night to review the photos to see what I needed to reshoot the next day. That went on every day for a month.
Oh, no wonder you were exhausted.
When I got back, I was just wrecked. I don't even know how to explain it, but typically I think of myself as having 2 feet firmly placed on the ground. I got back from this trip, Diana, and my head was so detached from the world. I had no idea, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And a month went by, and 2 months, and 3 months, and I was not reconnecting when I got back.
No.
And I thought, what do I do? Do I go see a shrink?
I don't think any normal shrink would understand.
I just don't know I have no idea. So I was online one day, and I was kind of, somehow I got a link, and I was looking at, my favorite city in the world, which was Florence, Italy. And I got to thinking, wouldn't that be really neat to just go and walk the streets alone by myself with my camera without anybody to tell me what to shoot or where to go or when to wake up or what to wash and just reboot. So
and that's what you did?
I did. It was spontaneous. And right that second, I booked myself an Airbnb for a couple of months. And then I realized I had to tell my husband that I was leaving for a couple of months. I married the greatest guy. He's the most supportive guy in the world, and just incredible.
Well, he would understand.
You're right.
What you went through.
He knew what I went through. Because he went down there the very last week of my job down there to visit me. Now, he went through it for one day, and he thought, wow, this is really cool. What's wrong with you? Why didn't you have fun? I'm like, because you didn't do this every single day. You did it the vacation version. He got the tourist version of what I was doing every day. So anyway, so what I wanted to do was go to Florence and reboot. And so I did that. I just went there and I got an apartment, and I just walked the streets every day. I just photographed. But the first day I got there, I looked out the window and I looked at that city, and I thought, why does the city look this way? What's going on here? Why is everything still so old? And why is the architecture so incredible? And it's in a city that stayed like this. What is the story here? And it kind of sent me on a 2-month journey very deep into Florence. And it awakened all of my historical senses. that I had learned all those years traveling with all those academics. And I just pulled out a version of Florence that was something I couldn't find in any store, in any bookstore, in any city in the world. So I decided to write that book. I decided to write that book.
Because Florence would be one city in the world that would have been written about an awful lot.
Yes. So the question is, what could I possibly contribute that hasn't already been done?
But you obviously felt you were going to be able to do it. You just needed to identify possibly a bit more finitely how.
Yes. Really what I kind of, as I've traveled around all these, the last couple of decades, whenever I've landed in a city, I always have in my head the kind of book I'd like to find. And it didn't matter which city I landed in the world. I always would go to a bookstore and look for a book that would take me deep into the past, into the city, that told me where that city came from. Mm-hmm. I don't care about shopping and restaurants. That's not very meaningful to me. I want to know about the city, where they came from, how it got there, how it grew. What is the story of the city?
Would you say that feeling, that experience applies mostly to Europe?
No, it's kind of been with me everywhere in the world that I've ever traveled.
Okay.
And everywhere in the world I've traveled, I've looked for this kind of book, and I've looked for a book that would take me really deep, really fast. Mm-hmm. Only things I could find were, in most cities are, if I want to go that deep, really are textbooks. And who wants to read a textbook?
No one does. No one does.
I wanted a book that's quick and snappy with tons of short stories and anecdotes and backstories.
That's real.
Lots and lots of visuals, because I'm a very visual person. I want lots of pictures, and I want to be an expert in that city really fast.
Yes. So you could probably write a handbook for photographers on that very issue.
Yes, I could. And so what I decided to do was write the book that I could never find in any city. And I started with my favorite city in the world, and that was Florence. Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So then and what is the title of that book?
That book is called Florence, Gems and Giants. And that book can be found, it's well into distribution right now. It can be found in Amazon all over the world, and it can be found in the United States in the Barnes and Nobles. It can be found in Canada, all over the United Kingdom.
Would you say the title again?
Florence, Gems and Giants. Florence, so the gems and giants. Yes. So the gems are the really terrific spots in the city, and the giants are the people that made that city.
Yes. Oh, yes. Gosh. What other city did you approach in that manner?
Well, I went back and I wrote about the city of Venice, because Venice has such a wonderful, interesting history. Yes, and that book is called Venice, Keys to the City. I'm going to Rome for 3 months this year to work on Rome. And I'm currently publishing a book right now called Behind the Fig Leaf, which is a sort of unabashed Renaissance art history book. And so that one should go into publishing before I leave for Rome this year, this spring. Excellent. Yes.
Talking of publishing now, you have had a rather disdainful view of publishing. I think so many people share the same view. You've done something about that.
Yes, my family started a publishing company, and we've decided to take publishing into a completely different direction. I decided to detach my ego from my books and take a completely different approach. I wanted to find the best possible way to get my books into the hands of the right travelers. Mm-hmm. And what that means is, instead of making the travelers have to find my books, how can I make my books find the travelers? Which is a different way of looking at book distribution.
Yes.
So I've thought about this. So, and I went and I talked to some people that I know, and we're just now embarking on a new program that in each of these cities in Italy, we are working with a number of 5-star hotels. And we are putting together a sort of a private label option where they take away the whole outer cover of my book, and they can redesign the cover of my book to their own brand. I go away completely, and now they have their own book. So XYZ 5-star hotel, when you check into their nice suite and you're tired, you want to know where the heck you just landed. You probably don't want to go and search for a book. Wouldn't it be nice to have a smart book already ready for you there in your room? Yes.
Good thinking.
So it's a really good branding idea for the hotels. We're doing this for the cruise ships that are going into Italy. So the cruise ships will now be able to have their own branded book as well.
Oh, very good. That's very smart thinking.
Yeah, so instead of selling thousands of books, I mean, this will sell millions of books.
Yes, and getting into the hands of the right people who will refer that book to others whom they know that may want to do that trip. But they don't want to get rid of their book. They want to keep it.
Exactly.
Because people that go into the hotels or on the cruise ships, they can buy it, right?
Of course.
Yeah. No.
The cruise ships can sell it. The cruise ships can give it away. They can do whatever they want, because at that point, it'll essentially be their book.
Yeah. Very good thinking. So that's your different approach to, publishing.
Yes, it hasn't been done before. This option has never been available to authors ever in the history of publishing that I'm aware of. And, we've done some research here, and most of the old publishing companies are so deeply tied up in contracts and rights and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, gosh, yes.
That there's no way they could ever pull anything like this off.
No, that's good. That's very good. Are you going to be doing this for other people as well, or any books that you've created the content for?
Well, right now, what we want to do is we want to create the model. So we're starting with my books. Ultimately, if this works, we may expand into other books, other countries, that kind of format. Because a couple of cruise ships have already inquired. They said, sure, Italy is fine, but we go to many more places other than just Italy. And they said, can your, publication do this for other travel books for other countries? So, I'm going to have to find out and see what's out there and what's available.
You're going to have to develop a few more legs and arms and a head.
I know, and I'm going to have to live a really long time.
Well, if it's any consolation for you, there was a book written in the United Kingdom at the end of 2018, and it's called The 100-Year Life. And it's all about people working until they're 80 and living an active life after they're 80, right up to 100 and beyond, and being active.
I absolutely agree with that. I'm that person.
Yes, or me too. I'm beginning to prove it. Yes.
I love it. Well, I am going to be 60 on my next birthday. Okay. And so I'm just curious to see how this all unfolds.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's very interesting. I'm getting soon, I think next week, I'm getting some research results from Johns Hopkins University about specialists in audio care and hearing of the human body.
Huh.
And that correlation into how, by keeping a person's mind more active, much more active, their hearing is going to get better or maintain a good standard as well.
Yes. You know, I read a similar article recently about hearing and blindness, saying that both of them will soon come to an end.
Ah, fascinating.
Yes, I think that's a fabulous topic.
Yes. So you're going to live a long life, Patty.
Oh, you bet. It's you and me, Diana.
Yes. Oh, yes, I'm doing pretty well. Golly, Patty, you could go on talking with you forever.
Oh, you're so much fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. So, Patty, where can people get in contact with you, learn more about you? And you mentioned you have a Facebook page. Is that in your name?
Yes, it's Patty, Patty Civalleri, C as in cat, I, V as in Victor, ALLERI. It's Patty.Civalleri in Facebook. And my website is ItalyTravelBooks.com.
Oh, that's
it's
easy.
ItalyTravelBooks, plural.com.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And then you'll go to other countries. You'll have to come out to Australia and do one here.
Oh, I love Australia. That's an easy one. Sure. That's an easy yes. I'd be delighted.
Oh, golly, yes. And you'd have a lot of good footage too.
Oh, you bet. Australia is such a beautiful country. Golly.
Yes, yes, it certainly is. There are a lot of really unusual sights and sounds here, and particularly with the animals and birds.
Yes, absolutely.
Patty, it's been an absolute delight to speak with you today. It really has. Listeners, I hope you found our conversation really very, very interesting. And if you want, I do strongly urge you to contact Patty. And if you're interested in being a guest on MaturePreneurs Talk, you can send me a message to Diana at dianatoddbanks.com. Patty, we'll have to do this again when you get to do another country, but you're going to be working on Italy for quite a while yet, I suspect.
Yes, I probably have about a year to a year and a half to go before I'm finished with Italy.
Yeah. Oh, what a wonderful way ahead you have. All of the untapped discoveries you're yet to explore.
Yes, yes. Archaeologically, they just continue to discover stuff there. So fun.
Oh, yes, absolutely fascinating. Well, Patty, thank you very much. Thank you, listeners. This is Diana Todd Banks closing out today's chat, our conversation, our comfortable conversation. Until next time, goodbye for now.